Okay, let's dive into this. We're talking about Milwaukee Tool, a brand that for a solid century has built itself into one of the most trusted names out there for professional trades. But that very trust, it's now at the heart of a pretty serious federal investigation. And this, right here, is the question that started the whole thing. The brand is built on this Made in America idea, right? But federal investigators started asking a very simple and, very serious question. Where are these tools actually coming from? Now, to really get why this is such a huge deal, you have to understand what Milwaukee Tool means to the people using their stuff every single day. This isn't just another company. For a lot of folks, it's a true American icon. And that whole identity is really built on a few key promises. You've got 100 years of trust built on being tough as nails. The M18 platform, it's basically the industry standard for countless pros. And the glue holding it all together is that powerful Made in America ethos. That's the core promise, and it's exactly why these allegations hit so hard. So let's get into the investigation itself and see how this all kicked off. It started when U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, got a formal complaint and decided, okay, we need to take a much, much closer look at Milwaukee Tool's shipping. The whole accusation boils down to this one word: transshipping. Basically, it's when you make something in, say, China, where it would get hit with high taxes or tariffs, but then you route it through another country, like Vietnam, to make it look like it came from there, all to illegally dodge those U.S. tariffs. And wow, the timeline shows just how fast this all happened. The investigation gets going in December 2024. Less than a year later, it's officially closed. But here's the kicker. It didn't just go away. CBP confirmed that it ended with something called an enforcement action. So what led them to take action? Well, this wasn't just based on a rumor. Investigators started following the data trail, and they found some numbers that, frankly, just didn't make any sense. Okay, check this out. Investigators found that 7% of the company's imports they looked at, worth about $30.5 million, came from a supplier based in Taiwan. The problem? That supplier had 0 factories in Taiwan. So the multi-million-dollar question became, where were those goods actually being made? And then you see this chart. On the left, that huge bar is the volume of stuff being exported to the U.S., supposedly from Vietnam. On the right, that's what's coming from China. Now get this. China is the company's biggest manufacturing hub. So how in the world was Vietnam, with way fewer factories, shipping nearly double the volume to the U.S.? It just doesn't compute. This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? The shipping data was painting a picture that was really, really hard to explain, and it was a red flag big enough to trigger a full-blown federal response. All right, so just when you think you've got this story figured out, it takes a wild, completely unexpected, and kind of ironic turn. Let's talk about the lawsuit. I mean, really think about this for a second. Your company is being investigated by the United States government for illegally avoiding tariffs on Chinese goods. So what's your next move? What do? You honestly can't make this stuff up. While they were being investigated for dodging tariffs, Milwaukee Tool actually went and sued the U.S. government over those exact same tariffs. It's an absolutely wild legal position to be in. So their argument in that lawsuit was that these tariffs were unconstitutional and that they were causing their business direct financial harm. So you've got this one company, on one hand, being accused of dodging tariffs, while on the other hand, they're suing because those tariffs hurt their bottom line. It's a lot to unpack. So where did all of this end up? Let's talk about the official outcome of the whole investigation and what it means when you look at the big picture. Officially, the case closed with an enforcement action. But what exactly was that action? Was it a fine? A penalty? Something else? We just don't know. The government pointed to the Trade Secrets Act and wouldn't give any specifics, which, of course, leaves a ton of unanswered questions. And this is where it gets even weirder. You have the CBP, the government, stating in writing that yes, an enforcement action was taken. But then Milwaukee Tool put out a statement saying they were not aware of any such action. I mean, those two things can't both be true at the same time. And, this didn't just happen in a vacuum. Just a year before this, the company was facing questions about a supplier in Xinjiang, China, that was accused of using forced labor. So for a brand that is all about integrity, that's 2 major supply chain controversies in 2 years. And let me tell you, the federal government is taking this kind of thing very seriously across the board. In just fiscal year 2025, they collected $6.8 billion from trade fraud cases. This investigation is just one piece of a much larger crackdown. And this quote really gets to the absolute heart of it. Look, most pros get it. Global supply chains are complicated. But the allegation here isn't about complexity. It's about an intentional plan to deceive. One of those is just modern business. The other, well, that's what federal law calls fraud. So the official investigation is over, and enforcement action was taken. But for the millions of professionals who literally built their livelihoods around these red tools, the real question is still out there. The whole brand is built on trust. But after everything that's come out, is that trust a closed case?